I think we would all admit that this has been a fairly interesting election year.
He looks out for the little guy against the corporate greed.
A promise from former President Bill Clinton in San Diego today, why his top pick for commander-in-chief will continue to campaign until the very end.
Hirschman must go! Hirschman must go!
A free speech debate heating up at San Diego State, the guest speaker and the controversial flyers sparking new demands from campus leadership to step down. And a dirty little secret could be making its way to your neighborhood, plus the largest source of powerful greenhouse gases in San Diego County. This is Evening Edition on KPBS. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Our top story tonight, San Diego State University's president is under fire. Critics are blasting his handling of a controversial speaker's visit to the campus. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says the Muslim Student Organization and several other groups are calling for President Elliot Hirschman's resignation.
Hirschman must go! Hirschman must go!
The call for action was elevated on the San Diego State University campus today during a lively press conference.
Hirschman must go!
The school's Muslim Student Association has had a difficult relationship with university officials since last week. That's when flyers advertising an upcoming speaking event identified 7 current students by name.
Students were called terrorists. They're called allies of terrorists. For a Muslim student, or for any student here on campus being called something like that, it has horrendous effects on their future. These students are applying for grad school, they're applying for jobs.
The Muslim Student Association responded quickly, asking for a condemnation of the flyers. That didn't come, and the tension boiled over when students confronted Hirschman outside a campus building. He was inside the police car for more than an hour. University officials met with student leaders for 2.5 hours this past Monday. Students were hoping for that strong condemnation of the flyers. The university issued this statement. Quote, by agreeing that in cases where racism, Islamophobia, misogyny, homophobia, and all forms of bigotry result, we abhor the content of such expression, even as we recognize the protected status of those expressions. Finally, we reaffirm our commitment to supporting an environment that fosters meaningful dialogue and mutual respect. KPBS reached out to university officials, and they say the Monday email would be their final comment on the issue.
It was very wishy-washy, another vague email, another vague statement that did not condemn this situation and did not fully support those students that were called allies of terrorists.
David Horowitz's organization distributed the provocative flyers on other California campuses, and those schools strongly denounced the tactic. He was invited to San Diego State by the Student Republican Club. Monique De La Cruz says the idea was to broaden the dialogue on a liberal college campus.
He has sparked a lot of controversy with what he has to say, but he's also a good speaker, and he does take Q&A, and so we not only get his side, but we also get to see how students feel about the subjects that he talks about.
The Southern Poverty Law Center tracks hate groups and hate speech around the country. They say Horowitz is known for anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant speech. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
You see, I have always said that the Lord has a purpose for me as he has for everyone. And as I suspend my campaign today, I have renewed faith, deeper faith, that the Lord will show me the way forward and fulfill the purpose of my life.
And that's Ohio Governor John Kasich ending his bid for the presidency today. He was the last remaining opponent challenging Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. And Texas Senator Texas Senator Ted Cruz bowed out last night after losing in Indiana.
From the beginning, I've said that I would continue on as long as there was a viable path to victory. Tonight, I'm sorry to say, it appears that path has been foreclosed.
And because it's now a one-man race, California voters will not be deciding the Republican presidential primary. County and state election officials had been preparing for a surge in voter turnout on the June 7th primary. The lack of competition will likely dampen voter enthusiasm a bit, but the Public Policy Institute of California reports the state's voter turnout has ranked in the top 10 in every presidential primary since 1980. Former President Bill Clinton came to the Balboa Park Club this morning. It was part of a campaign swing through California for his wife, Hillary. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh shows us the San Diego fans and the critics who are rooting for her rival.
On a day when the Republican frontrunner seemed to consolidate his hold on the Republican nomination, supporters of Hillary Clinton rallied around the former president, who's just behind me here. They started lining up just before 6 a.m.
The Clinton campaign estimates that just under 1,000 people came to see former President Bill Clinton, including Barbie Applequist.
I think that having our first female president is a pretty big deal. I know my 8-year-old daughter is really excited about that. And I think we're going to see more moms and dads and young children get excited about our presidential process.
It's my deep honor and a true privilege to welcome to San Diego President Bill Clinton.
The former president didn't name either GOP frontrunner Donald Trump or her primary challenger, Senator Bernie Sanders.
I think we would all admit that this has been a fairly interesting election year.
Even as a group of Sanders supporters gathered outside.
Be the champ for the little guy against the corporate greed.
Clinton says the campaign will remain engaged in the primary through June 7th. In fact, the campaign plans to open 8 California offices, including one in San Diego, probably within the next week.
I know what the press says and the numbers of the delegates, and she's way ahead in the popular vote. I know all that. But we got to run this race to the end. We got to run this race to the very end. And the end is when you, New Mexico, the Dakotas, and New Jersey vote.
It's unclear how much of a primary campaign we still have going into June, or whether or not this is a pivot to the general election. Either way, it's clear there's a lot of enthusiasm here at Balboa Park. For KPBS News, I'm Steve Walsh.
As part of our California Council election coverage, we're revisiting the Kensington and Teralta neighborhoods of San Diego. KPBS reporter Megan Burks brought together voters from communities that are worlds apart when it comes to demographics and voter turnout.
Miriam Ali recalls trying to rent an apartment when she arrived in San Diego 25 years ago after fleeing Somalia. She was receiving government housing assistance.
And then the white guy came and he was like, "Oh, and do you work?" I said, "No, I'm not working. I receive, government assistance." And he was like, "Oh, no, I should not be talking to you." And my English was little at that time, and I just ran away from that neighborhood.
That neighborhood was Kensington, where Peter Dennehy lives. It's an upper-middle-class community filled with historic homes. Residents make, on average, $90,000 a year, and 62% of them cast ballots in the last statewide election.
I'm sorry that happened.
It's okay. But the people don't know the culture. They don't know if they're going to get their money. In a way, I understand.
Ali ended up finding a place less than 2 miles away in Teralta. Her neighbors make an average of $21,000 a year, and less than 30% showed up to vote in 2014. In many ways, Ali and Dennehy are just as different, but they find common ground in politics.
Well, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. It's kind of a process of elimination. So. I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton. I voted for her 8 years ago. I'm the parent of a 13-year-old daughter.
I have spent my entire adult life working toward making sure that women are empowered to make their own choices.
She has the education, the qualification. She was a Secretary of the State. Her husband was the president. She knows the job. I didn't hear anything about negativity stuff out of her mouth. So we want, as a woman, we want to see a woman president in the United States too.
I think it's time.
Yeah, it's time to do the change.
Yeah.
Dennehy and Ali even agree on a proposed San Diego ballot initiative to build a football stadium for the Chargers.
They are the light our kids watch. You know, they want to become one of them. So it will be hard to drive all the way to Los Angeles or maybe another city that they was trying to put in. We want the Chargers to be in San Diego County.
You're a strong Chargers fan.
Yeah.
I support the stadium in concept. I actually don't mind paying for it to a degree.
The neighborhoods that make up this San Diego City Council district vote overwhelmingly for Democrats, just for different reasons. Both Ali and Dennehy don't like GOP presidential frontrunner Donald Trump's rhetoric on immigration.
For a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
For Ali, who became a U.S. citizen in 2003, his proposal to ban Muslims from entering the country stoked fear she might be separated from her U.S.-born children.
When I hear something like that, I was like, oh, maybe they come in next month to take us, you know?
Dennehy says Trump's proposals betray the nation's past of welcoming immigrants like Ali. And he adds this.
I don't know as many immigrants, perhaps, from other places, but I know a lot of people who, as I said, are doing business on both sides of the border and really see the kind of language that we have as like not good for business.
Consensus at the ballot box here won't necessarily translate into consensus on policy. Residents may agree on the same outcome, but their backgrounds often inspire different ways to get there. For instance, Dennehy is in real estate development and believes ramping up housing production will make homes more affordable. Ali wants rent control.
And the Democratic Party is very diverse.
Francine Busby chairs the San Diego County Democratic Party and says the region's Democratic leaders will increasingly have to consider this broad spectrum of support.
San Diego County Democratic Party, this is Ben.
For the past 8 years, Democrats have had a slight majority of registered voters in the county, largely because of its growing diversity.
We have people who are academics and scientists. We have environmentalists. We have new voters. I think the biggest boost that we're getting, which is over 1,000 more Democrats registering than Republicans each month now, are your new voters in the new citizen ceremonies and that type of thing.
Mexico.
It's something the city council candidates here might want to consider. Dennehy says he and his neighbors are already getting door hangers from the campaigns. Ali says that's not happening yet on her Teralta block, but she still plans to vote June 7th. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
And that report was part of our California Counts election coverage with KPCC, KQED, and Capital Public Radio. For more on this series, go to kpbs.org/CA Counts. The international coalition leading the military campaign against ISIS in Iraq and Syria agreed to step up contributions to the effort today. This agreement comes a day after a San Diego-based Navy SEAL was killed in Iraq. U.S. Defense Secretary Ash Carter spoke after he met with his counterparts from 11 coalition countries.
Our strategy is because we want not only to defeat ISIL, but to make sure they stay defeated, there has to be a local force that keeps the peace after the peace is secured. And that's why our overall approach is to enable local forces to do the fighting, to take back. But that doesn't mean we're not going to do any fighting at all as a coalition.
Navy Petty Officer First Class Charles Keating was shot and killed during a gun battle that involved more than 100 Islamic State fighters. He was part of a quick reaction force that moved in to help American military advisors who came under attack. They gave their lives in the line of duty.
Sean Nava, October 28, 2000.
Thomas A. Keyes, November 20th, 1937.
San Diego Law Enforcement Memorial Foundation remembered the fallen heroes today. Services included reading the names on the memorial wall, music, prayer, an all-agency flyover, and lights and sirens on full display from every branch of law enforcement. Nancy Riggs Matthews says seeing the same people year after year offers her some comfort.
We all kind of acknowledge each other and we say, well, see you again next year. I think that is a healing thing, to see each other, to know that we're all have just moving forward with our lives, and but coming back to remember the day and the things that happened in our families, not just mine, but all of our fallen heroes' lives.
There are other memorials being held for fallen officers around the nation. A new effort from the state capitol is trying to protect young athletes. The legislation would require the youth sports leagues to train coaches and officials about how to spot concussions. It would also require parents to sign information sheets about the risks. Youth athletes would require a doctor's sign-off before returning to their sports. The bill is moving to the full assembly for a vote. There is a midnight deadline looming for Governor Jerry Brown on a package of bills designed to restrict tobacco use. They include a bill that calls for raising the age to buy cigarettes to 21. The governor must sign, veto, or return the bills to the legislature tonight, or they automatically become law tomorrow. Backers of an initiative to legalize marijuana in California say they have enough signatures to qualify their measure for the November ballot. The coalition that includes Facebook President Sean Parker and is backed by Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom say they have collected 600,000 signatures. Now that's about 235,000 more than needed. State Assemblyman Mike Gatto says it's important to remember that even if this measure passes, possession and consumption of pot is still against federal law.
The federal law still governs in this area, and this administration has said that they won't enforce the federal law. But I'm worried that if we tell an entire generation that it's legal, but then another president, perhaps somebody who's running right now, gets in the White House, that the law might change.
If passed by voters, the state measure would allow adults 21 and over to have 1 ounce of pot and 6 plants for cultivation. It would also place a 15% tax on retail sales of the drug. For the first time, scientists are mapping where methane is collecting above San Diego. Ingrid Lobet of KPBS partner iNewsSource says in some areas, the climate-changing gas is present at surprisingly high levels.
Scientists like Chun-Ta Lai at San Diego State University have long understood the importance of finding out where climate-changing methane is escaping into the air, from natural gas pipelines and from landfills. But when he and a team drove a specially equipped van around San Diego County analyzing for methane, he was still surprised.
Well, we've seen methane levels as high as 15 times the ambient level. So that's pretty high. That's pretty amazing.
The highest levels they found were in the air near the Otay landfill in Chula Vista and near the Miramar landfill. Lai provided his data to us at iNewsSource, and we prepared this map. At the landfill, officials said methane does seep out of cracks across the 1,000 acres of fill.
Methane is certainly a big concern, and as part of AB 32, we do surface monitoring continuously. We identify any sources that are higher than 500 ppm on the surface, and there are areas where you can see where we have mounds of dirt, and that's where there has been cracks or fissures that develop as the landfill continues to settle, and those are then capped off with dirt and then retested.
Even though the city says it's capturing most of the methane, its own records show it's the largest source of this powerful greenhouse gas in San Diego County. And there's another sign that the methane from the landfill could be reaching all the way to La Jolla. Researchers at Scripps Institution of Oceanography say they are picking up the gas from their equipment located at the end of the Scripps Pier.
The highest values we see are when the wind is out of the east, and in that direction, that points right at the Miramar landfill. So we don't know that it's coming from the Miramar landfill, but I think you'd have to say that's the suspect number one.
The researchers say San Diego will have to actually measure how much methane is escaping from the landfills and other places like power plants and pipelines in order to meet its ambitious and legally binding climate plan. I'm Ingrid Lobet with KPBS News partner iNewsSource.
And you can see the methane hotspots in San Diego online at inewssource.org. San Diego Assemblywoman Toni Atkins is hoping the fourth time's the charm when it comes to increasing language interpreters at doctors' offices and hospitals. KPBS reporter Megan Burks explains how she plans on funding those changes.
Atkins says she's working with the governor's office to include $15 million in the next state budget for medical interpretation. The governor has vetoed 2 bills on the issue, and a third failed to get traction in recent years. It's something San Diego immigrants have been trying to draw attention to since 2012. They've shared stories of misdiagnoses, procedures gone wrong, and kids having to relay sensitive medical information to their parents. Atkins says some 7 million people throughout the state are similarly at risk of complications without certified interpreters.
We have expanded and gotten better and better as we have rolled out the Affordable Care Act, but we're only really going to provide true access if we're able to make sure that we include the language capabilities.
In his veto messages, Governor Jerry Brown said the state could not pay for medical interpretation given the state's budget situation and new health spending under the Affordable Care Act. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
UC San Diego is now the 35th best college in the world according to Times Higher Education. It has moved up 6 spots from last year's ranking. The World Reputation rankings are based on what Times Higher Education calls the world's largest invitation-only academic opinion survey. Harvard ranked first, followed by MIT and Stanford University. 2 schools in the UK, Cambridge and Oxford, round out the top 5. A downtown park may help transform the front of the shopping center along Broadway. Check out the sights from Horton Plaza. The $17 million project keeps a fountain built in 1910. There's also free public Wi-Fi. City leaders hope the 53,000 square foot urban plaza will be used as a public gathering space. And don't forget to pack your rain jacket tomorrow. Heather Waldman says a gusty storm is heading towards San Diego. She has more on the timing of the storm and tonight on the KPBS Weather Report.
Signs of an increasingly more unsettled weather pattern are showing up in the West Coast. We'll go from bright, sunny and warm to cloudy and even stormy at times up through the start of this weekend. I'm meteorologist Heather Waldman. Latest satellite and radar shows those widespread clouds across central and northern California, even some showers from San Francisco up towards Redding. Nothing in the Southland, at least not just yet. But as we go through the next 24 hours, those rain chances go up quite a bit. So plan on some slow commutes here Thursday into the day on Friday. Temperatures tonight in San Diego County, pretty nice. Mid to upper 50s for most folks. Of course, cooler into the mountains where temperatures will be dropping into the mid 30s around Mount Laguna. But clouds generally staying away. Could be some patchier clouds as you get closer to the coast, but nothing too much to block the views on Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, though, we turn to stormy. Here's the front producing the rain today off to our north. It's going to swing south and eastward and set off a chance for a couple heavier showers, even a gusty thunderstorm around San Diego towards Los Angeles. And behind this front also some much cooler air, so temperatures will be about 10 to 15 degrees lower for several days for most folks. We're talking below average through the day on Sunday. Here's a look at that forecast for the coast. Again, thunderstorms in spots on Thursday. That's where that front moves through. So that's where those storms could pack their greatest punch with potentially gusty winds and areas of heavy downpours. Friday, the rain is a little bit more sporadic. Could be a dry start to the day, but then the showers and storms pop up during the afternoon. Temperatures will struggle into the mid-60s for a few days, finally back to 70 by the time we get to Monday. And we'll see more sunshine returning throughout this weekend as well. So good news, we're getting the rain, and we get to have a decent weekend as well. Inland, it's a similar setup, a little bit warmer, but temperatures here too below average, upper 60s to low 70s Thursday into Friday. As that front moves through, concerns for some gusty winds Thursday into Thursday night. So before that rain starts, we'll need to be careful with wildfire threats. Once the rain, of course, helps to dampen the ground, that will go down. But nonetheless, watch out for some areas of quick flooding. Any of those heavy downpours. Temperatures will be in the upper 60s up through this weekend. We'll see a thunderstorm in spots Saturday, then much nicer weather by the time we get to Sunday. That front waits until Thursday night into Friday to move through the mountains, and even here too, where temperatures will be in the upper 40s to mid 50s most days. Could get a shower or soaking thunderstorm. We'll have to remember to mind the winds as well. They'll be somewhat gusty Thursday night. Any high-profile vehicles traveling through the mountains definitely need to pay extra attention. Into the deserts, a lot of the moisture doesn't quite get here, but we definitely cloud up through the day on Friday. Temperatures will be in the mid 70s. We won't see 80 degrees again until we get to Monday. I'm Heather Waldman for KPBS News.
Well, if you, like me, love classic rock and roll, well, then the desert will be your musical oasis this October with a lineup that to some may seem like it fell out of rock and roll heaven. Golden Voice announced the billing, which includes the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Paul McCartney, Neil Young, Roger Waters, and The Who for the 3-day concert called The Desert Trip. Tickets go on sale May 9th and cost $399 for all 3 days. The concert will take place at the desert grounds where the annual Coachella Music Festival is held.
Happy Star Wars Day, and may the 4th be with you.
That's right, the force is strong today. Fans from across the globe are uniting in celebration of May the 4th, the unofficial date to celebrate all things Star Wars. Lightsaber battles and film screenings will take place at several locations in San Diego this week. The Star Wars-themed space battle will return to the Embarcadero Marina Park South Friday night. The saga's Episode 8 is set to release next year, but a spin-off film called The Rogue One will hit theaters this December. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. From all of us here at KPBS, thanks for watching and have a great evening.